All right. Um,
Yay! All right.
Yay. I'm going to make sure I share this for us. And I hope you all are ready to join us. Molly just told me I'm starting a little early.
She got super excited.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
There we are.
So let me get things going here.
Okay.
And as you all pop on, comment, let us know that you're here so we can say hello to you.
And as always, you know the drill. Let us know how the volume is if you can hear us okay.
Oh,
That's
please do that.
it helps. Like I've got it Facebook up over to the side here, and it looks like it might be a little bit laggy, but it may just be my internet connection, so it's hard to
Okay.
tell.
See, it looks like we're on. Okay. Well, I'm here all wild. I look fly, y'all. Please tell me I look fly.
I'm faking fly very well.
You look beautiful, Molly. This is what it looks like to work from home the day after a photo shoot. I was like, no makeup and throwing my hair back. So
There's nothing wrong with that.
that's right. I'm real excited about our topic tonight.
I am too.
Journeys.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while, and this is a topic that has been it keeps popping up. Has been popping up for a while now. So as something that we've needed to kind of that well, not needed, but it would be good for us to venture into as a subject, because this
Yeah.
is something that every single one of us deals with on some level. Most of us that are in this space are here because we are on or have recently been on some sort of personal journey. And then, of course, talking about journey as medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of different aspects for this one.
There are lots of different aspects for this. I know, like when you say have been on a journey versus like ceremony space, I think
Mm-hmm.
about all the different journeys I've been on. Like one of my journeys has been my health, you know.
Sure.
One of those is like, some of those are building relationship journeys, biggest one we've talked about recently is self-care journeys. Like there's
Sure.
so many avenues you could go to in a journey.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think, perhaps it might be useful for everybody that's tuning in for us to kind of define what we mean by journey. And, for me, kind of what you know, the idea or the loose definition of which that I'm working with is kind of an exploration or expansion. Sometimes they are journeys that we choose. Sometimes they are journeys that life chooses for us. Sometimes they, get thrown into a journey, whether we want to be there or not. But usually there is a lot of, it's a process that requires us to expand and grow. And sometimes it can be really beautiful. Sometimes it can be a total fucking mess. And sometimes those that are total fucking messes can also be the most beautiful.
That's what I was going to say. And they're usually both like,
Yeah. Yes. If you're doing it right. Yeah, absolutely.
yes.
I love
Oh,
the meme that's been floating around, and there's been different versions of this meme over the past couple of years. It talks about what I thought the spiritual awakening was going to be, versus
yeah.
it's like this person standing on a beach and this glorious sunset, and her hair is just blowing in the wind, versus what it actually was this horror person just like on this roller
Hurricane.
coaster and hurricane, haggard, just spent, wrecked. Yes.
Yes, my healing journey has been like that, and my spiritual journey has been like that. And it's not always like as you're going in this journey, whatever it is, it's not always clear when you're in the beginning or in the middle. It is called a journey because it's like we're figuring it out, and even once you figure it out, you get that peace. Oh, there's still uphill.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's I finally, there's been a lot of times where I haven't I've been dealing with a lot of angst and haven't realized that I was in the midst of a personal journey. And again, it can look like so many different things, whether it is, a journey to distance from ego, whether it is a spiritual, awakening piece, whether it's healing from trauma, it's a dark night of the soul, it's, healing post relationship. There's so many different kinds of journeys, but often I find myself not realizing what's happening until I have the opportunity to kind of look back and see where I've been. And it really is, for me, often I find myself in the midst of these hard slogs, and I get to this beautiful little plateau and have a moment where I can kind of rest and enjoy the vista from this new vantage point, and then turn around and realize there's another uphill slog right behind me that's waiting for me. So it's an ongoing process. It never ends.
I mean, it's so true. I feel like the past few months I have been on a journey in my own business for it to transform into what it's supposed to be, in the sense that I am a medium and I do readings, but the work that I am supposed to offer is shifting and changing a little bit. It will include that. Don't get worried. I'm still a medium, but it feels like there's more of a magical and mystical piece to it. So I've been on a journey discovering that. And I can tell you, like, I've had this focus. I quit my job in January, and I'm doing, working my business full time as a medium. I'm the co-owner of Healing Within Louisville, but really that's not my main gig. My main gig is what I do. And over the time since I've quit, it just, there's been more. And it's like, I want you to give it to me now. And it's like waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's like I get little snippets each day. Maybe not each day, maybe every couple of days. Yes. They're like, try this. What about this? I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And to where, I was in ceremony space, and it unfolded. I was in ceremony space, and I was doing my work. I was like, oh, it's like, it just keeps coming. You think you know yourself, and they're like, no, wait 1 minute. I got something for you.
Yeah. Surprise. Yeah. And then it's two pieces where you were talking about that dropped in, and one is, the journey of manifesting, which this is what you have been in the process of doing for quite some time with your business. That is also a journey, sometimes short, sometimes it's a long haul. But manifesting is definitely a journey of its own. And then of course, talking about ceremony space. I don't know if everybody is familiar with what we mean by ceremony space.
Yeah, probably not. But why don't we start with manifesting? How do you feel about that? And then go into ceremony?
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. Manifesting is my gig. I love manifesting. I can manifest like a motherfucker. Like, I can do it, y'all. So, and it really, for me and for the others on this manifesting journey, and aren't we constantly trying to manifest? Like, it's a continuous thing to work towards what you want. Because today you want one thing, in a week that you got that thing, and it's shifting. So like on a manifesting piece is making sure you're in the right energy. Right. That doesn't mean you have to be perfect all the time. That's what the journey piece is about. Like, that's what we're talking about. The journey's up and down, but to manifest, to be in the right energy when you're focusing on that piece.
Yeah.
And absolutely. I really feel like with
otherwise you're manifesting things here.
Yeah. Sorry. If I'm in the wrong energy, because I can get caught in some sadness and some negativity, not so much now, but a lot in the past, and in my own mess, makes sense. It's usually our own mess that causes that. But I've worked on like really visualizing what I want, writing down what I want, but also not being in the want or the need energy, and being in the energy of I have, I am, I feel, and really feeling what it would be like to have those things, and really putting the energy out that I know it's there. I'm just waiting for it to show up. It's there.
Right.
I'm just waiting
You're just
for it to
waiting for that
be
link.
physical. Right.
Yes.
So it is an up and down. And sometimes in that manifesting journey, I feel like you're given things you manifested, but you didn't realize it.
Sure,
Like
absolutely. And
how it shows up.
yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think that, like you just said a moment ago, I mean, we are always manifesting. You know, it's, you may not realize, you know, we may not realize that we are manifesting, but you know, our energy is always going towards something. You know, whether it is manifesting the things that we want to bring into our lives, or you know, manifesting the things that we need to work on in our lives. You know, it's amazing, you know, what we're bringing in, you know, during those manifesting moments.
Yeah, and it can be, I want to talk about manifesting, like it can be for anything, family, like what you want with your family,
Sure.
what you want in your bank account, what you want to feel, what you want, a home you want to bring in, like your spiritual awakening yourself. I'm getting real wild over here.
I can't see. So.
I'm here for your entertainment, you guys. I look like a fucking cockatoo. But it's just there's so many different journeys in one manifesting piece. And yeah.
Yeah. And
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to talk about, there is the journey of manifesting that can also run simultaneously with the journey of shadow work, which is also a journey path that many people are embarking with. I've seen people struggle with the manifesting piece, and so they focus their time and effort in on the shadow piece, which then releases everything that was stuck in the manifesting piece, if that makes sense. So yeah, another deep dive that, and again, it's can be by choice. It can be a guided experience, but it is definitely one of those things too that if it needs to be done, life will get you there one way or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that goes, like some of these journeys overlap, like when you're saying manifesting and shadow work, that is right along with spiritual awakening,
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
I feel like both of those come into play. So, or all of those come into play so well together. And a lot of that also steps into ceremony space,
Lots of it.
Yeah. So I'm over here going, so where do we start on that? And you guys joining in, I want to say hi to Jessica and Christopher who have just left comments. So great to have you on with us tonight. If you have questions, please comment. You have journey stuff going on, please let us know. But yeah, why don't we talk about what ceremony space is? Do you want to jumpstart us on that?
Sure. And I think that, there is two different distinct pathways, but ceremony space is essentially a shamanic space where you enter into an altered state of consciousness in order to go on a journey, which is, looking for answers, looking for insight, looking for experience, for the purposes of growth and expansion. So the two primary ways that happens is through the use of drumming. So you can listen to rhythmic drumming that's typically very monotone. It's not like the drum circles you see on the beach or in the park. Not that type of drumming. Typically the drumming that I have used during shamanic journey is very steady, rhythmic, monotone, but again, just to kind of allow you to sink into this kind of altered space where you can go deep and go to the lower, middle, or upper world to do journey work. And then of course is plant medicine, which is often uses various types of plants, but a lot of typically plants that have psychotropic effects, again, to get people into that altered state of consciousness where they can do their work. And it's, it's a lot of people that I've talked to over the years immediately go to, that time they did mushrooms in college, and it's like, no. it's a totally different experience. It's in a very energetically clean and enclosed kind of ceremony space. It feels the ceremonies that have taken place in, with rare exception, have, the spaces feel very womb-like almost.
Oh yeah.
Very, you feel very taken care of, and so, you don't have to really worry about much other than doing the work that you're there to do.
Yeah.
So that.
That
what
was
would you
perfect.
add?
No, well, I feel like Molly has words for what I try to describe often, and I love that. I always tease her about it, but I really love it because I would have probably said it in a way roundabout way. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I just was thinking yes to the womb, the feeling at home, like it is like being wrapped in that warm blanket and held, and also like shaking through a little nightmare some here or there. And I don't mean that like it's not a nightmare, but sometimes you're remembering things, when you get into that altered state of consciousness. And is it okay? Can I share my experience, like kind of how it's gone for me? Are you okay if I go into that?
Sure.
Okay, because
the only thing I was going to say quickly before, maybe we talk a little bit about, some of the plants that we use in ceremony, so they
oh yeah,
have an idea of what we're talking about.
Sure. So, well, let me just say too, like as a teenager, like I did plenty of drugs, this is not that.
Right.
This is not that. Like, this is plant spirit, plant medicine that if we have respect for it, it totally respects us. And it shows us things that maybe we couldn't have gotten to because we hold on tight in our human body.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the ego. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is it gets us out of our ego in order to be able to get into those tender places that the ego is trying to keep us out of.
Hold on, I'm making notes of things I want to share.
And that's the biggest part of it is getting out of that ego. And it's, Jessica said, mentioned the word nightmare, and it's I've had some of the most beautiful experiences, profound, life-changing, beautiful experiences doing this type of ceremony work. I've also had experiences where I felt like I went through an ego death, and it was ultimately, again, beautiful. Like we talked about the the spiritual awakening, even when you feel like you've gone through one hell of a hurricane, it's still absolutely profound and beautiful. So
yeah. Well, so I'd say the most common one that people have heard of is ayahuasca. I personally have not done ayahuasca. I've heard of iboga, peyote, shrooms, and there are several others. Do you have other names that you want to list?
Those are the primary ones. A lot of times, even cannabis gets brought into journey space. It's it works a little differently. It doesn't. It has a mild or very minimal psychotropic effect or psychedelic effect. But as far as the primary ones, the big one, of course, right now is ayahuasca, and then mushrooms are very, very frequently used. And the great thing about mushrooms is now, or even, and I don't want to go down into a rabbit hole with this yet, but now with microdosing, they're starting to realize the amazing benefits of these types of plants for treating depression and anxiety and all sorts of stuff.
So I microdose, and it is.
We need to talk.
I got you, girl.
Awesome.
So I microdose. I have been classified with depression for years. I was crazy as a child. Like after my parents' divorce, I was crazy. throwing stuff, hitting things, and people. Like, my mom was like, I'm sending you to the hospital. Like, I really struggled emotionally most of my life, and I've had plenty of trauma, but I wouldn't classify my life as like I've had a bad life. But those of you on here know the things I've been through. Some of you might have bits and pieces, but I've been through a lot of stuff. And so I started medication. I've been on depression medication on and off several times in my life. And since August, I have not been on any. Now, I'm not a doctor. Molly and I are not doctors. We are not therapists. We are not your body guide, but we're telling you from our experience. Like, the biggest thing that these ceremony spaces have brought me is I have been able to understand myself. I've healed some deep traumas. I have not had to take depression medication or anxiety medication. Do I still get sad? Yes. Do I still get anxious? Hell yeah. And I acknowledge it. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling really anxious right now. What's going on? Or I will walk away. I'll go breathe. I will find my tools and I'll utilize it. But now I've learned through Journey Space to be like, okay, I'm feeling anxious now. What is this related to? Like, I'm okay, what's going on? What is triggering this? Because it isn't this. So what deep in my childhood is triggering this? So, I've learned to do that through this ceremony space. And I will be completely honest, Molly, my first 4, I've gone like on 6 or 7 since August. I don't recommend that many, by the way. Talk to your facilitator. But I have done several, and my first 4 were like gentle, and the medicine is gentle and loving, depending on which one you're using. Some will throw you right into the deep end, and that's what it's meant to do. But I like what we've started with, which is a very heart-opening medicine that drops you into your heart, and it's very gentle, it's very feminine, it's very loving. And once I built a rapport with this medicine over time, I trusted it enough to let it show me things.
Sure.
So like, I remember my February journey. So Molly introduced me to journeying and kind of helped me to understand what it was. And I was so curious. And it was interesting to see the timing, because there were 2 or 3 times I couldn't get to the journey, and I was on medication, and there were things that, so it didn't work out. And then it did in August. Well, February, when we had a journey in Red River Gorge, that first night, I remember feeling the emotion starting, and it's just starting to pour out of my eyes. And I was holding on tight, and, Cree came over and she just kind of snuggled into me, and she was like, "You're holding on real tight. You want to let that go?" And I was like, "Yes." And it was like emotion poured out of me. And of course, she's doing energy work and found where it was. Well, after I'm in this space where I'm crying and I'm like talking about what's happening and how it was about a belief system, about myself. And I realized at that point, I was like, this isn't mine. This isn't my belief. This belief was given to me by my mother. And so we energetically worked it out, and I was crying it out, and it was like physical. And when I got done, it was like, like I could breathe, like deep again,
Right.
And that night, what I saw was I was with my granny, and I walked into this scene, and it was the scene where my mom had just had me. I was watching it. And she was holding me, and I could see there were other family members in the hospital room. And what I could feel was how scared she was, and how my dad wasn't in the right mindset. And she hadn't had her parents for 10 years, or, so there was so much, and she was young. She was 20, when she had me. So there were so many fears. And as babies, we take on that stuff. Like, we don't, it's not a mental, like, I'm going to take on. It is a spiritual taking on of those things. And so I was able, and they showed me like different memories. This is also the next night where I didn't have as much of that visual, like walking into memories, and there was more. But that next night, I'm laying there, and I felt like it was flashes like this. And I told Cree, and I was like, I don't think I'm going in. And she said, I think you need to take your own workshop and get into your meditation space. And I was like, well, shit, right?
Right.
So she comes back in later, and I just sit straight up, and I was like, am I bisexual? Like, how in the world? I was like, I'm gonna need to sit with this for a minute because I don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, showed me something that I wasn't willing to see. I think everybody else probably saw it, but I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you talk about like things show up that you aren't expecting, well, it let the ego go enough for me to be like, it is okay for you to be bisexual.
Yeah.
It
is. There has never been an instance where I've walked out of Journey, walked out of ceremony, and haven't felt like I've been through at least 10 years of really good therapy every single time. And it is, when the plant medicine again is able to get you into a space where your ego is able to step aside, and the ego works in the mind as a protector. It's trying to protect us all from all of those things we don't want to see about ourselves, all of those things we don't want to see about our lives and what's going on, all of those things that we don't want to feel. So when that's able to step aside and within a safe space, we have the opportunity to explore those emotions. And it's I don't know, I assume the process has been similar for you. I did my first journey back in, I guess, 2013. So, and I do about 2 to 4 a year because I have to process it. And it's, the integration time for me can be, it takes some time to sit with all of the things that come up. But what it did is it gave me a vocabulary. It's helped me build a vocabulary so I can have these conversations with myself. And it's given me, like you mentioned, so many incredible tools where, I've told this story, in various forums here in Soulfire before. When I went to Los Angeles in 2012, I lost my job, which means I lost my health insurance. And I have been battling also with depression and anxiety my whole life. And so I was in a job that I fucking hated. It was so toxic. And so, I was on a battery of medications. I was on a bunch of Xanax and a bunch of anti-depression medication and Ambien. And this was just to get me at a baseline to function, every day. And so when I left for Los Angeles, I lost my health insurance. So I was driving across country in a tiny ass car with my mother and my animals and everything that I owned. And was detoxing all this medication. And so I got to Los Angeles and I was able to experience my first journey. And it was such a profound moment. I also was able to come off of, I haven't been on medication since. But it's, it's not an automatic, it doesn't flip a switch, but it builds a vocabulary and it builds a tool set. Where, like you said, you still get sad, so do I, and deal with the anxiety. But now I have the tools to be able to sit and be with those things where I wasn't able to recognize that they were even there, much less, be with them and have a conversation. It's helped me develop a relationship with discomfort, which sounds like a horrible thing, but it's really, it's a beautiful thing when we can sit and be in our own discomfort. And that's what Journey has given me, is the opportunity to do all of those things. And so, it's again, I've had those, beautiful, profound, life-changing, gorgeous, heart-opening moments. I've had moments where I literally, like, just the emotion, the built up, pain that I was carrying that I didn't even realize, it was just literally leaking out of my face. I've been there in moments where I'm like, my face is leaking and it won't stop. Like, I'm not actively crying or sobbing, I'm not, but I'm just
it's
like,
releasing.
my face is just leaking. It's just releasing all of
Yeah.
this stuff. And, we carry so much, you know, this, all of the traumas that we've experienced and all of this, we hold this in our bodies. And so, yeah, it is a release of so much of that. And it's, there are moments when it does get, difficult and touch on things that are really hard, but it's in such a safe space. I mean, you feel, for me, I always feel not only am I being held by facilitators, I'm also being held by, people that are there journeying as well as, my ancestors and, my spirit guides.
Yeah.
They feel so close. And so it is a profoundly life-changing experience.
I want to touch on two things you said. I'm making notes so I don't forget. You touched on, hey, Rochelle. Rochelle said hi. Just saying hi to comments. And Tanya and Jack said hi as well. And we've got a couple comments. But I want to touch on two things. One is that it does take you into some serious things that have happened. I had sexual abuse as a young child. And I just let that cat out of the bag, to be honest, because not a lot of people know that about me, like my family.
Yeah.
And here opened a door, y'all. And the medicine knows what you're ready for and what you're not ready for. So, like, I haven't been able to go into it in a way to where I'm in that scene, but I have seen the scene, but I've seen it from different viewpoints, and I've healed a lot of that, and it's been big stuff. In fact, this past journey I did, it came up again, and I cried and I let it out, and then I started to walk to the bathroom and I doubled over and poured out more tears. Like, it was just a lot of big stuff, and I was so grateful for it. And I remember laying there and being like, yes, let me heal it for all of us, like, and all of us being those still living that have been through it in my family. I was like, I'll take it. I'm here. Just let me heal it because I'm already in it, And the other thing I want to tap on is the bond you build with the people in journey. There's nothing like it. Your walls come. Your wall is down because your ego. We're taking away the ego, and all of a sudden you're like, I love you, and I need to hold you, and I need to hug you. Like, it's a whole big love fest. It's not crazy, but it is very like open. You're just so open, and you build a bond, and there's something real special about that.
Well, I think you talked about, the medicine, opening the heart. And so I think part of that is it allows us to be in our vulnerability with people in ways that we aren't able to be with, people in our day-to-day lives. But that being said, I think it's really important, if anybody is interested in, in learning more about Journey, obviously you can reach out to Jess and myself. But one of the things that I would say, if you are interested in doing this work, is know who your facilitators are, and be aware of the space that you are walking into, because it is not everybody approaches Journey space the same way. And especially if you want to do some deep work on some really profoundly sensitive pieces, making sure that you're in a safe space is really important. So Jess and I have talked quite a bit about listening to your gut. Listen to your gut while you are entering into this process. And for some reason, the timing doesn't feel right. Or, like Jess said, she had a couple of times where she started to do Journey and it just didn't work out. Listen to that. It's this is one of those things that will happen perfectly the way that it needs to. But listen to your gut if it's telling you that maybe it's not the right time or the right group. I think that's important.
Absolutely. And please reach out to us, because we'll put you in touch with the right people. I try to put a group together every few months. And that's not all my people, but maybe one or two of my people end up. But, I put that together because it really has impacted my life tremendously. Like, am not triggered the same way I used to. I'm more patient. I'm more confident. Like a lot of what I've worked on is a lot of self-confidence and believing in myself and loving myself. And like we said, that's a whole nother journey. So I want to list a question. Jack says, what did you say was the most common? What did you say was the most commonly used form of medication / synthetic / whatever is used today for soul transference to a journey to a higher spiritual place outside of mushrooms, peyote, pot, etc.? I would think ayahuasca was pretty common, but that's not what we use. Yeah. That's not what we use. And there are just so many different forms, and I don't know them all because I don't facilitate.
Yeah, there's lots of different plant medicines that work in combination. But the big one right now everybody talks about is ayahuasca. So it is a vine plant that grows in South and maybe Central America, but I definitely know South America. That is brewed in a very specific process. There's very specific methods for how it's handled, but it is that is a phenomenal journey plant. It is definitely, if you're looking to move big energy, if you're looking to get into some deep places, if you want to do shadow work, ayahuasca is definitely a big one. And the thing is that ayahuasca can be worked with in various forms, not just the tea, which is the most common. I work with one of the medicines that I've worked with a lot is powdered ayahuasca. It's been dehydrated and activated in like pineapple juice or something. But so various forms of ayahuasca are big. Is that what you were asking about, Jack?
And while we're waiting for Jack to answer that back, Rochelle, yes, we are talking of journeys on a shamanism level. We've talked about drumming ceremonies. We happen to be talking about plant medicine ceremonies now. And I will tell you, I don't know if have you watched the Goop Lab, Molly?
The which one?
Goop Lab on Netflix with Gwyneth Paltrow.
I haven't. I've been really reluctant.
I had to, but it is so good. Please watch it. I've never
personal
seen
prejudices.
I was too. It took me a while, but let me tell you, like episode 1, they do a journey. Now the medicine they use are mushrooms, but I felt like it was a really great example of what a journey space is like. So if you're looking for that, the Goop Lab, episode 1, I loved all of the Goop Lab. Watch it all. There's some things you'll be like, dang, they got into some good stuff. I think episode 2 is about sexual pleasure and vaginas. So
nice.
You can go there too.
I will say that episode about journey specifically, you're not the first person to mention that as being useful. And so for anybody looking, like you said, to familiarize yourself with what a journey space might look like, it's probably a great place to start. Yeah. There can be variations. I mean, we've done journeys in old farm buildings and we've done journeys in friends' homes. And, the important thing is, when safe and comfortable and having access to the things that your body needs, because this is, when you work with plant medicine, it uses your body's resources. So it uses vitamins and minerals within your body to do the work that it is. So, having access to hydration obviously is a big one. One of the things that a lot of people think of when they talk about, especially ayahuasca, is purging. So, you can, I have only, in all of the years I've been doing this now, I've only had that happen one time. So it's not something that happens to everybody, but making sure you have access to facilities, that you've got access to, appropriate food and stuff to nourish your body. These are the things that are important in a journey space. So again, you can relax and do the work that you're there to do.
So I have not watched Kentucky Ayahuasca. So any of you all wondering about that, I haven't watched it. But what I do want to say is, myself included, like most people are like, am I going to vomit and am I going to shit myself? Because that was my biggest worry.
Right.
Take all the healing, but am I going to vomit or poop?
Right.
And it's it's typically not like that. Could it be like that to where you're purging and getting things out? That's an energetic release, like physically leaving your
Let
body.
it go. Yep.
Let that shit go. Like, don't hold it down.
Right.
So, but no, it is typically not like that. I'm sure it could be, but I have not, in the many journeys that I've done, seen anybody have that issue. But it has happened. It can happen. And it's all
Sure.
about the situation and maybe what your journey's about. But I want to I know that's one of the most common questions I get. And I'm like, no, it's not like that.
Well, and I would say too, if you, your facilitators should be trained and they are prepared for that stuff.
Mhm.
So, the environments that I've been in, if I have felt a little nauseated, they're like, hey, here's a bucket, here, bathrooms that direction, whatever you need, just get rid of it because of your body. That's what your body wants to do. And like Jess was saying, I mean, you are releasing energy. You can release emotional blocks that way. You can release all sorts of stuff that way. So it is, obviously being nauseated is uncomfortable for all of us. But this is therapy. So this is, not, this is part of the therapeutic process. So it's
Well, and I
definitely,
think a lot of people are worried when they watch like Kentucky ayahuasca that it's going to be like that. And again, I haven't watched it, so I don't know what it's like. But what I can say is like going to a treatment center is, you go to a treatment center and you come out. So if that's something you choose, whether it's here in another country, you need to have a system in place after. You need to have your healer, your therapist, your best friend, your mama. Like you need to have your team and be like, I just got off a journey and I may need your help. Because what I've found is, like for me, the day after I'm good, but then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm a fucking hot mess and I can't
right,
function. And
right.
I mean, on a level, I just am like all up in there trying to
Well, the
calm myself.
emotional dust is trying to settle.
Right.
Right.
And the serotonin level, right? So because
Yes.
we go way
Yes.
up and then it's like, ew.
Right.
So that's one thing, like that's why we talk about you feeling safe because you're going to need a team after. Because things don't just all come in during journey. They're going to drop in after. Like for me, I was driving home from the journey we were in Red River Gorge. I was driving home and then I was in tears because stuff started to drop in. And I was like, shit, I'm gonna need to pull over, and
Right.
that
Right.
thing happens. Rochelle said, I think it would be cool to use the frequencies I use on people in that journey on people. I said that weird. Rochelle, it would.
Yeah.
Typically, so on our next retreat and on this past retreat, like everybody who has magic skills, we kind of I'll do a drumming circle to kind of help meditate people, calm them down and get them into the space, or people are doing healing work or readings. Like, I think that would be awesome. And Rochelle, if you'll reach out to me, I have a retreat in August 1st through the 3rd. So I'd love to talk to you about that. But on that note, Molly, I don't know if I've shared this, but I did a little journey with mushrooms a few months ago in my home. And they turned off my music. I was listening to Jim James because he gets me all up in that spiritual space, right?
Mm-hmm.
They turned off my music and I was hearing light codes and frequencies. I was like, what is happening? Like, it was really freaking cool.
Yeah.
So yes, Rochelle,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I do
Rochelle
too.
does light activation healing. So.
I think that would be amazing in a journey space environment. And it's, one of those things if, if you have intuitive abilities, if you are empathic, if you are, if you have mediumship skills, if you have psychic abilities, my experience is that those get amplified. So again, making sure that that you are in a space where you are being, you feel like you have, people taken care of, and it's phenomenal, going to journey and there's light workers and people doing body work and stuff to work with the energy in a space. Cause that's not, that's not something you're going to find everywhere. Again, it's going to vary from group to group. One of the things also that's been really important to me is integration. So, typically after journey, the morning after, there's like a group breakfast, and in a period of integration where everybody gets a chance to talk about what they experience. And again, it's, it's a very, very safe space with these people that you've had deep experience with. And so, that's a really important part of the process for me. But I do know that, again, that's also not something that every journey facilitator does. So something to be aware of while you're looking for your journey experience.
I find that the integration is beautiful and emotional, and it just helps to open you up a little bit. I can also say, I mean, it's vulnerable, but this has been my most vulnerable place is in journey and in integration. And and it's never mandatory to share certain pieces, but typically you end up sharing pieces that are really powerful for yourself, and it helps others reflect. And I feel like in that integration, I'm also able to share, hey, thank you so much for just rubbing my back, or like for cuddling me, for holding my hand, for leaving me the fuck alone. Like all of those things are so valid, because sometimes you're like, look, I don't want you here. And we're like, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Unless you're like me and you're like, come in full force with a million crystals. Sometimes.
I'm
gonna bring a crystal in your drink.
Which I love. I think that's amazing. I think that's absolutely amazing. But it is, that is, for me, has been one of the most beneficial aspects again, it's taught me a vocabulary for being in my vulnerability and recognizing that there's a lot of strength in being vulnerable. I was raised by a Marine and I was taught, I was handed something entirely different, that, vulnerability was weakness. So this is, it's taught me, the power and the strength in vulnerability and in deep heart connection, and, being able to, allowing myself to not only hold, but be held, and, allowing myself to be witnessed and to witness others in this space. And it really is such a deep and therapeutic process to be in a space with other human beings that are also sorting through their own shit, and knowing that you're safe, and knowing that, you can share if you need to share, whatever it is. And, there's not judgment, and there is support, and, encouragement for growth. And if you need to cry, or you need to go puke, or whatever it is, that there's a space to do that.
Yeah. And it's really hard for me to be vulnerable with people. Like that's something that I'm realizing that is really tricky for me. So it's taken me a while to be able to let my guard down, or to cry in front of people, or to just let loose, and I wouldn't let that hold you back, because it will come to you in the right timing. So even if it's not that night, it might be 3 months later, and here comes a little bit of info for you. Like, hey, let me give you this healing piece. So it's going to drop in when it's meant to. It doesn't have to all be that night.
Right. That plant, and it happens in layers.
Yes.
Yeah. It happens in layers. Each one of my journeys is built on the one previous. I've never encountered anything in a journey space that I wasn't prepared to encounter based on the journey work that I've done prior. I've had some that have been uncomfortable. I've had journey experiences where it literally has felt like, all knees and elbows, and dealing with uncomfortable stuff. And sometimes anger comes up, and it's, getting into, but, anger is sacred too. So I've had the opportunity to touch into my sacred rage, and I've had the opportunity to touch into my grief, and into my love, and into my deep connection with, God and the universe, and my gifts, and, my path. And so it's, but yeah, because of, just being able to work on that vulnerability piece, it's kind of opened a door to so many other aspects that I wouldn't have had access to otherwise.
Yeah, it's helped me make decisions in my life, because I've become in tune with myself. which has been really impactful,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you guys, I know
Well,
we're
I just
coming close to the end here. We still have some time, and I want to let you know if you have questions about this, please let us know. Contact us, reach out if you have, if this is something that you're interested in and you want to get in touch with someone we might know. We want to be sure you're in a safe place, but remember, like, drumming journeys are really powerful too. Hey, Molly, I'm going to step away for 2 seconds, okay?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right. I'm holding the fort on my own. If anybody has any questions at this point, definitely feel free and ask. I'm looking at the comments right now. Let's see if there's anything else. We did answer Jack's question. He was asking about ayahuasca. But yeah, shamanism and drumming journeys can also be extraordinarily powerful without any plant medicine whatsoever. If you're curious about shamanic journeying, if you're local here in the Louisville area, there's some incredible shamanic journey teachers that teach how to journey with shamanic drumming. They're amazing. So there's lots of opportunities. If you are in other areas of the country and are looking for resources on learning how to shamanic journey with drums, you can definitely reach out, and we'll. I'm sure through our contacts we can find you a good recommendation. There's some phenomenal teachers out there. But if you're curious to know what the shamanic drumming sounds like for journey work, YouTube is actually a really great resource. If you just go in there and search for shamanic drumming or shamanic journey drumming, you can find actually pretty extensive clips. Some of them are a couple hours long that will allow you to listen to that drumming and get an idea of, even if you just practice sitting and meditating with that drumming, you can feel yourself start to kind of journey out. So it's definitely a good resource if you want to get in touch with that kind of shamanic journey work, which is, like Jess was saying, also extraordinarily powerful. And
I'll say too that after
I started to ask you a question. I was going to ask, yeah, no, not at all. But they now hold two different purposes in my life right now. So if I am looking for answers from my spirit team and insight into spiritual matters, if somebody else, like doing clearing work or something like that, and I need some deeper insight and I'm not getting the answers that I'm looking for, in a download, I will spend time and do shamanic drumming journeying for that type of work versus personal work, which is where I do the plant medicine journey. Do you work with both?
I do work with both, and I love both, and I agree with you on that. The one thing that I was going to add is when I do drumming in the journey space, sometimes it reactivates a little, like it takes them deeper into that journey again without being on that plant spirit.
Yep. Totally. Yeah.
So, one journey you'll activate that too, and it makes the drumming a little more intense.
Yeah.
In a good way, like it just, but you don't have to. And this is something like a lot of people are like, I don't want to do that, and I'm like, that's fine. Like that's never mandatory. It's if it calls to you. That's the one thing I say is like, if it calls to you, you're gonna know, and that's when you'll be like, I need to reach out to Jessica and Molly.
Yes.
But, it does not call to everyone. Some people are very resistant to cannabis and mushrooms, and I have no judgment for you on that. Like, it's fine.
I was for a long time. I was terrified of psychedelics for a really long time. And through this process was able to build a relationship. So yeah.
Yeah, and I can say, having tried things as a teenager and even young adults, like doing things like doing shrooms is not doing a ceremony. I mean, you
Right.
can. I'm not saying I'm not taking that away from you. I'm just saying I have found value in what it's like to do something like that without a ceremony and to be in ceremony. Like,
Mm-hmm.
one, in ceremony, I have somebody ready to help me process it right then. On your
Mm-hmm.
own or like with a group of friends, you all aren't holding spiritual space,
Not at
Maybe,
all.
hopefully,
Not at
but
all.
probably not in that way. The other thing about ceremony space is you're safe. You've got somebody watching you. Like, I got you. What you need? Here's a blanket.
Right.
Here's a pillow. Here's some tough love. Not usually. It's usually
Yes.
very loving, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you have somebody that's got your
Yeah.
back and can see some of the things you can't. Like, you'll be like, for integration this past time, like we went through it and then, Cree was like, well, what about this piece? And I was like, oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot. Thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me that I need to look at that piece again. Like that piece where I was like rolling around in the grass and I hate to touch grass and bugs and stuff. And I was like, I love this grass, like I found my oneness in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so what about
Yeah.
that? Because you're the girl that's like, don't touch me, don't get me near the bugs.
Right.
So
Right.
I found value from doing it recently on my own. And it was like, I need to be in journey space. I need to process this, and,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I have access either way, but I feel like if you choose to do something like that on your own, and I don't recommend it, but if you choose to do something like that on your own, then have somebody on call.
Absolutely. Yeah. And be aware too that, you don't always have to do group journey with a facilitator.
Right.
You can do a private journey with a facilitator
I
that will
have.
hold you in that sacred space. Yeah. Yeah. I've done that too. And it's, there's definitely value in that. So if you're, if you're nervous about being in a, room with a bunch of people you don't know, going through really private and tender stuff, definitely look into doing a private ceremony because that's available to you, so you're not
And
journeying on your own.
well, and Molly and I have journeyed together, and Molly's in one room and I'm in another. We don't even know till the morning what's happened, and we
Right.
don't even know all of what's happened between each
Right.
other. But we're there in separate rooms and being well taken care of. Y'all, you'll never eat so good.
That is very true. And it's always really lovely. Like breakfast the next morning is always like eggs and avocado and raspberries and good bread, and it's just it's so. And now I'm starting to make myself hungry.
I know. I'm like, I'm not. Can we go to Journey
cheese
now?
I just want Journey breakfast. We're gonna go for Journey
Me
breakfast.
too.
It's like Denny's.
Me too.
It's just different.
Can somebody make me breakfast?
Yeah.
You all, it is. And what's beautiful is just the community. Like, you will walk in not knowing somebody, and the next day you all are lovers. I'm just saying, not really lovers, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you're the best of friends.
Intimate.
My friend
Yes.
Crystal and I, way intimate. My friend Crystal and I, we didn't really know each other, but we were like, let's go do this journey together. Like, we're more acquaintances. Like, our significant others knew each other, and so we go on this journey, and we are inseparable. Like,
Yeah.
you don't often find us apart, So it's been really amazing to build that friendship on somebody who's going down a similar path, and I could talk to about spiritual stuff. Now, I feel like,
Absolutely.
Molly and I are really good friends too, and we can talk about that. But to have that team of people that speak your language is just needed.
Absolutely. And are, like you said, going through similar journeys themselves, not only in journey space, but in life. And you've crossed at such a critical and beautiful moment to be able to share journey space together. I mean, that's something that, it's a bond that you'll always have, it's, which is amazing. But, it is, like you were talking about, Kentucky ayahuasca. Some, and I know a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies in South America, you're on your mat, you got your bucket, you got your tea, and you stay there. So there are different kinds of formats for folks that are looking for just, ayahuasca specific ceremonies. So there's different kinds. If you're not into the lovey, and you want more of a, personal space kind of thing, there's different options. That's all I'm saying.
There's so many options, and I'm not the expert. Molly probably knows more about it than I do, but I've definitely discovered a lot about it this past year. I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just changed my life.
And too. It has changed.
So thank you, Molly, for introducing me.
Such a profound level in so many ways. You are so welcome. I knew you were going to be a good journey buddy. So yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome that we can now do this together. So and share it with others, because it is amazing, amazing work. It's not always easy. Like I said, I've had very uncomfortable journeys. I've had journeys where I've cried the entire night. I've had journeys where I cried so much I looked like I had been maced. But it has always been profoundly beautiful, beautiful, life expanding work. So highly recommend it.
Yes, so reach out to Molly and myself. You know how to find us. If you want more information on this, if you have questions, we'll guide you to the right person if we don't have the answers. Anything else you want to add, Molly?
Love it. Nothing off the top of my head. Yeah, I think we covered it all. But yeah, if you need resources, we're happy to answer questions or point you in the right direction at any point. It's work we both deeply believe in. So happy to help.
So this week in Soulfire, tomorrow night we have. Well, I'm like, what day is it? I don't know anymore.
What's happening?
Tomorrow night we have Christopher for Astrolab at 8 p.m.
At 8 p.m. Yes.
We have a change for Saturday. Kat is going to be in ceremony. I hope it's okay to say that. So no music Saturday, but you still got me. So I'll be there. I'll sing maybe. I might.
Awesome.
I might sing.
Awesome.
So I'll be live at 9 on Saturday, but no music this week. And we will miss Kat. So, but if one of you all want to play music Saturday, 8 o'clock or another night, or you want to share your magic,
yes,
we have open space for you. I hope you all enjoyed Thomas last night. I always love when Thomas Moonigle hops on here.
Too.
So yes, he's just such a great wizard. But yeah, just reach out to Molly and myself. We still are open to having other people on here. I know we've got a great regular schedule and I love it. But take a look at the events. Let us know if you want to share your magic. If you want to interview with Molly or myself, we've got some interviews booked, I think through the end of July, close to the end of July. So go ahead and message us now and we'll get you signed up to interview with us on a Wednesday night. Or if you need another night, just let us know. So awesome.
Absolutely. Yep. Lots of, and just so you know, I mean, if you, if you're thinking about wanting to teach something or do something here on Soulfire and you're worried because, maybe you're not an intuitive or you're, doesn't matter. If you're a musician, if you're an artist, if we're doing talks on race and privilege here in Soulfire. So if you any kind of content that you feel is meaningful that people would appreciate hearing about, absolutely reach out to us. Let's get you on the schedule in the evening. Or remember, you can go live at any time as long as there's not somebody else live at that moment. You're good to go live and share impromptu at any time. So we're happy to hear from you.
Yeah, come do some yoga. Who wants to do yoga?
Yes.
Somebody please come do yoga.
Work. Yes.
Breath work.
Absolutely.
Let's call it in, you all.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Oh, well, thanks, Molly, for jumping on here on Wednesday. And I love these Wednesdays with you. And you all have a great week.
I do too. Thank you. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, you guys.